If you have ever felt a force inside you that refuses to be quiet, a pressure that pulls your attention, drains your focus, and demands release, you are not broken. You are powerful without direction. And power without direction never creates achievement. It creates exhaustion. Most people spend their lives trying to suppress desire, ashamed of its intensity, confused by its persistence, and fearful of its consequences. They are taught to resist it, distract themselves from it, or drown it out with noise, never realizing they are silencing the very fuel of greatness. That inner fire you feel was never meant to control you, but it was never meant to be wasted either. When misunderstood, it destroys discipline. When ignored, it turns into frustration. But when mastered, it becomes the engine behind every enduring accomplishment. You have likely felt this cycle before. Bursts of motivation followed by collapse, intense ambition followed by distraction, energy that surges powerfully then disappears without producing anything lasting. This is not weakness. It is misdirected force. Desire is not the enemy of discipline. It is its raw material. The same energy that pulls the mind toward pleasure is the energy that builds empires when redirected with intelligence. But no one teaches how to make this conversion, so most people remain conflicted. This is why so many capable individuals never reach their potential. They possess enormous drive, but no mechanism to convert it into sustained purpose. Their energy leaks into impulse instead of structure, release instead of creation, relief instead of results. You may have been told that achievement requires denying desire altogether. That belief is false. Suppression does not create mastery. It creates internal war. An internal war always drains the strength needed to build anything meaningful. There is a law that governs this force, a law so misunderstood that it was nearly erased from conversation. Not because it is dangerous, but because it is powerful. When understood, it explains why some rise steadily while others burn brightly and fade. This law does not ask you to become less human. It asks you to become more deliberate. It teaches you how to take the strongest impulses you possess and redirect them upward, transforming urgency into endurance and passion into purpose. Most people experience desire as something that interrupts their goals. In truth, it is the very signal that energy is available. When that energy is guided instead of released blindly, it multiplies effort instead of sabotaging it. You have seen men with less talent surpass those with more. You have watched focus outlast intelligence and persistence outperform brilliance. The difference was never capacity. It was the ability to convert raw inner force into disciplined action. This conversion does not happen accidentally. It requires understanding, intention, and repetition. Without these, desire controls behavior. With them, desire becomes obedient, serving the aim instead of distracting from it. When this law is ignored, ambition burns hot but short. When it is obeyed, ambition becomes calm, relentless, and unstoppable. The outward behavior looks disciplined, but the true work happens beneath the surface. You may feel resistance even reading this. That resistance comes from years of misunderstanding your own nature. You were taught to fear desire instead of commanding it. And what we fear, we never learn to master. This law explains why some people never seem to lose momentum. Their energy does not spike and crash. It circulates. It feeds thought, strengthens resolve, and sustains effort long after novelty disappears. Achievement is not built on motivation. Motivation fades. It is built on converted energy that continues working when emotion settles. That is the difference between momentary success and lasting impact. When desire is redirected, focus sharpens. Distraction weakens. Decision becomes easier. The mind stops fighting itself, and all internal forces begin moving in the same direction. This alignment feels unfamiliar at first. Calm replaces urgency. Certainty replaces craving. And with that shift, Work becomes deeper, steadier, and far more productive than frantic effort ever was. Most people will never learn this. They will continue swinging between impulse and restraint, pleasure and guilt, motivation and collapse. Not because they are incapable, but because no one showed them how to convert power instead of wasting it. This law was never meant to be popular. It demands responsibility. It removes excuses. It requires that you stop blaming desire and start directing it. That level of ownership is uncomfortable for those who prefer drift. If you are listening carefully now, you already feel what is possible. Not suppression, not indulgence, but command. The ability to turn the strongest force within you into steady forward motion. This is the art most people never learn. And once you understand it, nothing about your effort, your focus, or your results will ever feel the same again. Within every man lives a flame so ancient, so insistent, that he cannot remember a moment of life without it. It stirs in youth, grows restless in manhood, and if misunderstood, burns through his years without producing anything of permanence. This flame is the vital fire. It is the original energy of life itself, the current through which all creation moves. Most men call it desire. Some call it lust. Few ever call it what it truly is, power without discipline. Power in its rawest form is dangerous, not because it is evil, but because it obeys no order. When a man learns to govern this flame instead of flee from it, he touches the foundation of every achievement that endures beyond his breath. The average man lives as prisoner of this fire. He wastes it through worry, drains it through indulgence, or buries it under shame. He does not know that the very energy that causes him turmoil is the same energy that built every bridge, cured every disease, and wrote every song of lasting beauty. He spends life fearing his own furnace. You may feel this conflict within yourself, the tension between your noblest vision and your strongest appetite. You strive for control, only to fall back into impulse. You discipline yourself for a time, only to watch discipline collapse the moment emotion rises. It is not weakness that defeats you. It is ignorance of the law of redirection. Desire, ungoverned, will always seek the nearest outlet. It is a river that must flow, and if you block it without guidance, it will carve its own ruinous path. Suppression breeds disease of the body and confusion of the mind. Indulgence breeds fatigue and guilt. Only redirection gives life. When I say redirection, I speak of turning the same energy that seeks pleasure toward the pursuit of a definite aim. Every emotion carries motion within it. If you deny that motion entirely, you create stagnation. But if you give it command, it becomes enthusiasm, vision, courage, and persistence. Thomas Edison felt this restlessness deeply. He was not content to sit quietly. His nerves demanded expression. Where other men would exhaust their energy in leisure, he poured his into experimentation. What others called obsession was simply energy seeking the right direction. In that furnace of focus, 10,000 failures became 10,000 steps toward mastery. Andrew Carnegie once confessed that his early ambition was not virtue. It was appetite for conquest. The same hunger that drives men toward destruction drove him toward empire. But when that hunger found structure, when it discovered order and purpose, it became discipline. His factories were the physical reflection of his mind under command. And Napoleon Bonaparte stands as both lesson and warning. His inner fire, when directed by vision, built empires. When seized by pride, it devoured him. Energy that is not governed will always consume the vessel that holds it. Every thought, every act, every impulse that rises within you is energy begging for assignment. When you attach that energy to a definite purpose, it refines itself. The same force that once sought escape now seeks expression. The body becomes servant of the mind, and the mind, in turn, becomes servant of an ideal. You cannot destroy desire, but you can refine it. Fire cannot be removed from existence. It can only be shaped. The same flame that burns cities also forges steel. The same impulse that leads to ruin, when educated, leads to genius. Understand that every work of creation begins as emotional heat. Emotion stirs imagination. Imagination shapes vision, and vision crystallizes into achievement. The cold intellect alone builds nothing. It calculates but does not create. Emotion is the spark. Direction is the wick. When you feel that powerful surge of energy within, do not flee from it. Do not apologize for it. Ask instead, where shall I direct this? That question, asked sincerely, separates the weak from the wise. For where emotion meets order, miracles are born. Suppression destroys power because it severs the connection between feeling and creation. A man who denies his emotions denies his engine. Indulgence wastes power because it spends energy without structure. But mastery, that sacred middle ground, turns chaos into harmony, motion into construction. I have studied thousands of men of success, and I tell you with certainty, not one ever achieved greatness while despising his own nature. They learned to master it, not mutilate it. The power that builds worlds cannot be conquered through shame. It must be trained through respect. Desire becomes sacred when it serves purpose. The same current that rushes toward pleasure when directed upward becomes imagination. Imagination is nothing more than passion ascending toward thought. Thought held long enough becomes plan. Plan acted upon becomes creation. There exists within every man a moment of choice, a split second where impulse appears and reason awakes. That is the moment of redirection. The man who recognizes it can steer the current upward toward a task, a vision, or a cause. The man who ignores it becomes servant of habit and slave to circumstance. When emotion rises, breathe and aim. This is not suppression, it is command. Fire under command gives warmth and light. Fire unrestrained destroys both home and master. The most misunderstood of all truths is that emotion fuels thought. Men have been taught to think coldly, to separate reason from feeling. Yet thought without emotion is lifeless. Emotion without thought is reckless. The two together, harmonized, form genius. To attach feeling to a definite aim is to give birth to power. To attach feeling to fear, doubt, or pleasure alone is to scatter that power. The disciplined man becomes a lens. The undisciplined remains fog. I do not suppress desire, I direct it. My energy serves creation, not escape. What once distracted me now drives me. Repeat these words not as sentiment, but as command. Say them when temptation arises. Say them when fatigue tempts surrender. Every repetition engraves obedience into the subconscious. You will know the moment this law takes hold within you. The energy that once demanded release will begin to serve you. Ideas will appear during rest. Endurance will rise when others tire. You will feel as though you have tapped a hidden spring that never empties. Your speech will change. You will talk less of resistance and more of vision. Your eyes will carry intensity, but your tone will carry calm. Men will feel your energy even in silence. Women will sense strength behind restraint. Opportunities will gather around your steadiness. Desire, when detached from aim, seeks release. Desire, when attached to purpose, seeks result. The same current that enslaves the drifter empowers the master. This is the moral truth. That which tempts you to weakness, if obeyed by discipline, will make you strong. No man was ever punished for possessing desire. He is punished only for wasting it. Faith is not blind belief. It is confidence in higher direction. Persistence is the governing of fire by will. Transmutation is not denial. It is the redirection of flame upward. Every virtue men admire is built upon these three. The law is simple, but not easy. It demands awareness. It demands patience. It demands that you face your own nature without shame and then command it with love. The man who learns this becomes a furnace of creation. From this point forward, remember, the force within you is not curse, but calling. It is the Creator's whisper saying, build. It was never meant to destroy. It was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to rise. And when it rises under order, you will discover that discipline and desire were never enemies. They were partners awaiting reunion. What others call temptation, you will call opportunity. What others flee from, you will use. What once consumed you will begin to sustain you. That is the beginning of mastery. Your productivity will rise without visible strain. Your mind will become clear, your heart steady, your will immovable. This is the transformation that marks the true student of success. Fire no longer feared, but faithfully directed. And when that fire burns in harmony with your definite aim, it will illuminate every step of your journey until your very presence becomes a source of light to others. There is a sacred point in every man's development when he ceases merely to restrain energy and begins to govern it. To restrain is defensive. It halts motion but breeds frustration. To govern is creative. It redirects motion toward a chosen purpose. The moment you begin to govern desire, you are no longer a slave to emotion. You have become the engineer of power. You cannot destroy energy. It is eternal. You can only convert it from one form into another. The same current that pulls a man toward indulgence can pull him toward invention. The same flame that heats passion can forge perseverance. Desire, when married to will, becomes courage. When refined through thought, becomes genius. I call this process the furnace of conversion. It is the place where chaos becomes command, where impulse becomes structure, where the man learns to shape his own power. Inside this furnace, the heat of emotion meets the mold of discipline, and a new form of self is cast, stronger, calmer, clearer than before. Most people live at war with this furnace. They fear the intensity of emotion because they do not understand its purpose. When desire rises, they rush to extinguish it through distraction. When it returns, they drown it again in pleasure or guilt. They never realize that each surge of energy was an opportunity, raw material waiting to be refined into progress. The first step in mastery is understanding that emotion is the fuel of creation. Logic may design, but emotion provides the fire. The mind without emotion is a lamp without oil. You cannot create greatness through cold reason alone. The heart must burn behind it. The question is not whether you feel too much. It is whether you feel with direction. The mind must learn to hold this fire without spilling it. The furnace does not rage uncontrollably. It burns within boundaries. The walls of the furnace are your daily discipline, your fixed schedule, your written purpose, your chosen aim. These walls keep energy concentrated where it can do the most work. Without them, the flame escapes into waste. Every act of indulgence is an act of leakage. Each time you surrender to fleeting pleasure, you disperse energy meant for creation. You empty the reservoir before it becomes power. The man who indulges excessively loses not only vitality, but also vision. His imagination, once sharp, becomes clouded. The appetite that once inspired him now enslaves him. Repeated indulgence dulls the edge of imagination. The mind that chases sensation loses the capacity for sustained vision. Pleasure repeated without creation weakens purpose. This is why the greatest achievements come from men who learn to delay gratification, who turn the fire inward until it burned through limitation and into inspiration. The creative mind is the natural outlet of sublimated desire. When physical intensity is directed upward, it becomes the spark that lights invention, art, and leadership. Every great artist has felt this truth. The poem, the painting, the symphony, all are children of desire refined into beauty. Passion, when denied expression in body, seeks expression in creation. Henry Ford did not suppress his obsession with machinery, he refined it. What began as restlessness became an empire. He poured emotional intensity into mechanical precision. Each model, each process, each improvement was the fire of desire made visible through structure. His persistence was not mechanical, it was emotional fire converted into disciplined motion. Leonardo da Vinci possessed energy of almost unbearable magnitude. His fascination with the human form was not merely artistic, it was spiritual. He saw in physical beauty the reflection of divine geometry. His desire became curiosity. His curiosity became invention. His invention became civilization's inheritance. He did not extinguish passion. He elevated it into wonder. Charles Schwab, a man of fiery temperament, once admitted that enthusiasm was his greatest asset. But raw enthusiasm alone achieves little. It must be disciplined into leadership. Schwab's enthusiasm, guided by purpose, became contagious. It ignited confidence in his men. That is the secret of magnetic leadership. Controlled emotion transmitted through vision. You must become as these men, not suppressors of energy, but directors of it. The moment you learn to catch the spark of desire and feed it into your chosen purpose, you cease to drift. You become a steady current of productive power. The mechanical process of transmutation is simple in law but difficult in practice. Thought directs emotion. Emotion fuels action. Action crystallizes idea. When these three are harmonized, the result is genius. Break the chain anywhere and energy disperses. To master this chain, begin with thought. Fix your mind upon one definite purpose, something that absorbs your imagination and stirs your emotion. Desire alone, without aim, is wind in the desert. But desire fixed upon purpose becomes a gale that moves mountains. Next, feed emotion into this thought. Feel it as if already achieved. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between imagination and reality. It accepts repetition as evidence. Each time you visualize success with conviction, you instruct the silent forces of your nature to make it real. Then act. Thought and emotion without action remain vapor. Action is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Each act, no matter how small, channels energy from the unseen realm into form. Action is the physical signature of faith. Repeat this process daily. Repetition is the rhythm that stabilizes fire. Just as the heartbeat sustains life through steady cadence, the rhythm of daily purpose sustains progress. Every morning you renew your signal. Every evening you record its results. Over time, your mind and body fall into alignment with your aim. The greatest test will come not in moments of weakness, but in moments of strength. When energy surges and everything within you screams for release, pause. In that pause lies your power. To hold energy and not waste it is to store lightning in your will. That lightning, when released under control, lights your path rather than burns your house. I have seen men turn defeat into triumph through this law. One, a clerk weary of obscurity, began to recite his purpose each dawn. I am building an enterprise that serves millions. His co-workers laughed, yet his tone remained steady. Within years, opportunity appeared, and his business flourished. He had done nothing mystical. He had simply redirected his emotional current toward consistency. Another man, once plagued by destructive habits, discovered this furnace through desperation. Each time temptation rose, he transmuted it into action, studying, writing, building. The energy that once enslaved him became the power that liberated him. Today he stands among leaders of industry, proof that discipline is redemption in motion. My passion is fuel for creation. I master energy by direction, not denial. Desire, when purified by purpose, becomes genius. I turn intensity into invention. Repeat these truths not as comfort, but as command. Say them when you feel most restless. Say them when fatigue whispers of surrender. With repetition, the subconscious accepts them as law, and law begins to shape circumstance. You must also understand the danger of imbalance. Too much suppression turns passion into bitterness. Too much indulgence turns it into weakness. The master walks between both, converting energy as alchemist converts base metal into gold. Imagination is the higher body of desire. It is desire dressed in discipline, passion in form of vision. The man who neglects imagination starves his potential. Feed your mind pictures worthy of its power. Let your desires climb into ideas, not sink into habit. Persistence is the rhythm of controlled fire. It is the habit of returning daily to the furnace of purpose, feeding it just enough fuel to keep it alive, never so much that it consumes. Persistence is not stubbornness. It is loyalty to direction. You will know you are mastering conversion when you no longer depend on external stimulation. Pleasure, applause, novelty, these lose power over you. Your fire burns inwardly now, steady and self-contained. You have ceased to need, you have begun to create. To reach this stage, build ritual around your purpose. Ritual anchors emotion to routine. It teaches the subconscious that desire belongs to discipline. Write your aim, read it aloud, visualize it, work toward it. Each act becomes a strike of the hammer shaping the molten metal of your will. Be patient. The furnace must operate daily, not in bursts. Fire too fierce consumes its material. Fire steady refines it. Do not chase inspiration. Create it through consistency. Genius is not lightning. It is a slow, glowing coal. The man who lives by this rhythm begins to radiate quiet magnetism. His energy feels concentrated. Others sense vitality but cannot name it. His presence feels charged yet calm, like a storm contained behind his eyes. This is not charisma by chance. It is energy under command. People trust such a man instinctively. They sense that he does not depend on them for strength. He brings strength to them. His words carry weight because they rise from emotional conviction, tempered by discipline. The world obeys the man who has mastered his furnace. Opportunity gravitates towards certainty. Fortune follows order. The man who controls his energy never needs to chase success. It unfolds toward him as naturally as growth follows sunlight. This mastery is not cold detachment. It is warmth directed upward. Love, creativity, and leadership all spring from the same root as passion. They are the fire purified by understanding. When you elevate desire, you do not lose humanity. You fulfill it. Beware the false teachers who preach denial as virtue. To kill emotion is to kill half your strength. Virtue lies not in denial, but in dominion. The Creator did not place power within you to be feared, but to be used wisely. The law of conversion is also the law of transformation. It demands balance between mind and heart, will and imagination, silence and expression. When these elements meet under discipline, the result is genius that endures through centuries. Think of Leonardo again. His notebooks overflowed with ideas centuries ahead of his time. Why? Because his energy, instead of escaping through indulgence, ascended through curiosity. Every impulse of wonder became discovery. Every urge became design. His life proves that sublimation of desire multiplies intelligence. Think also of Ford. His fascination with machinery was not mere mechanics. It was devotion. He transformed emotion into precision, restlessness into repetition, enthusiasm into system. That is what makes invention stable. Emotion repeated until it becomes order. You may not build factories or paint masterpieces, but the principle is the same. Whatever your field, desire is the raw material of excellence. Control the current, and greatness becomes inevitable. The mind that commands energy becomes a miniature universe. Every thought revolves around a central sun of purpose. The chaos of conflicting impulses disappears. Instead of scattered sparks, you possess steady light. This is the moral principle behind mastery. Direction without repression. True morality does not demand that you extinguish passion. It demands that you serve others through it. When your energy builds instead of destroys, when your desire uplifts instead of consumes, you have become moral in the highest sense. You will notice, as mastery grows, that joy replaces tension. The energy once tied to anxiety now fuels creation. Work no longer feels like burden, it feels like expression. You no longer chase results, they emerge as natural consequence of harmony within. Each time you choose direction over distraction, you strengthen your furnace. Each day you remain faithful to purpose. You polish the mirror of your mind through which infinite intelligence reflects ideas. The world begins to whisper its secrets to the disciplined. Do not confuse this with suppression of individuality. The man of mastery is not dull. He laughs, loves, and dreams deeply. But his emotions serve him. They no longer scatter him. His fire warms. It no longer burns uncontrolled. I have watched such men ascend quietly in every industry, every art, every nation. Their rise appears effortless to the casual observer, but their secret lies here, in the conversion of emotion into creation. They are never hurried, never desperate, never fatigued, because they draw from an internal wellspring that others constantly spill. The disciplined man's mind becomes a living furnace, ever burning, never smoking. His thoughts radiate clarity, his actions follow rhythm, his results appear inevitable. This is the law written in the structure of existence. Energy obeys order. The higher the order, the greater the result. Emotion directed by purpose becomes power. Emotion without purpose becomes chaos. The choice is yours in every moment of temptation or distraction, to waste or to wield, to flee or to forge. Each decision is an act of creation. And when you live long enough within this furnace, when your energy moves only toward construction, you discover peace. Not the peace of idleness, but the peace of precision. Every part of you works together. You no longer fight yourself. You command yourself. In that harmony lies immortality. The works you create through converted energy outlive you. They bear your rhythm, your vibration, your law. This is how men achieve eternity. Not through years, but through usefulness that never ends. When the day closes and you look upon your work, you will see reflected in it the face of your own disciplined power. You will know that every victory, every creation, every step of progress was born from the same fire that once tempted you to weakness. You will understand then why I call this the furnace of conversion, for it is here that man learns to turn the flame of appetite into the light of achievement, and in doing so, transforms not only his destiny, but the world around him. There comes a day when a man realizes that mastery is not about control. It is about peace. Control still belongs to effort. Peace belongs to understanding. The moment you understand that the fire within you was never your enemy, you cease wrestling with it. You cease fearing its strength. You learn to walk beside it as a friend, and together you travel toward purpose without resistance. When the fire becomes obedient, life changes. You no longer swing between indulgence and restraint. The same energy that once agitated you becomes the calm heartbeat behind all creation. The restlessness that once sought relief now fuels endurance. What was once lust becomes love for your work, devotion to your cause, reverence for your ability to build. You begin to see that emotion, when purified by understanding, becomes the highest form of intelligence. The mind alone may reason, but the heart alone creates. The union of the two, reason disciplined by emotion and emotion guided by reason, is the marriage from which greatness is born. At this stage of transmutation, you no longer feel the fire as temptation. You feel it as direction. You sense within yourself an invisible current guiding your thoughts, your speech, your timing. You move through the world not as one who struggles, but as one who is carried by unseen rhythm. This is the state of harmony with the law. All lasting achievement springs from this harmony. Effort alone exhausts itself. Discipline without joy grows brittle and breaks. But when desire and discipline walk hand in hand, they form the unbreakable chain of perseverance. This is the love for your work, devotion to your cause, highest form of intelligence. Immortal creation, emotion and emotion guided by reason, You feel it as one who struggles, but as one who is carried by unseen rhythm. This is the state of harmony with the laws. From this harmony, effort alone exhausts itself. Discipline without joy grows brittle and breaks. But hand in hand, they in bitterness, mortal creation. Think of if in bitterness. He transmuted it into patience through the long night of failure. It had already been converted through the also of Carnegie, who in his later years, his results inevitable. To maintain this flame, you must learn the sacred art of stillness. Stillness is not absence of motion. It is motion without friction. When the mind ceases to argue with itself, action becomes effortless. The man who acts from stillness moves with the quiet force of nature itself. The world yields to him because he no longer resists it. The difference between intensity and consistency is the difference between fire that burns and fire that builds. Intensity consumes quickly. Consistency shapes eternity. The river that cuts through mountains does not rage, it persists. So must you. You must understand that restraint is not weakness, it is stored strength. The man who can act yet chooses timing is more powerful than 10 men of impulse. Restraint sharpens energy. It keeps the fire hot but controlled, ready to serve the moment when opportunity appears. This restraint gives rise to magnetism. People trust the man who governs himself. They sense he is dependable, that his emotions will not betray his principles. His composure creates faith in others. Faith is the first currency of success. Money merely follows it. When you master your emotional current, you begin to attract people, ideas, and circumstances that vibrate at your level of order. Confusion falls away from your environment. Discord leaves your circle. You become a center of gravity. The law of harmony demands that all chaos either align with you or depart from you. The peace of such a man is not laziness. It is alertness without anxiety, power without pressure. His mind remains sharp but quiet, like the blade of a sword resting in its sheath. He no longer chases opportunity. Opportunity recognizes him. His certainty becomes command. Each morning, the transmuted man rises not to battle himself, but to continue creation. He greets his work as a lover greets beloved. He knows that his fire, when kept loyal to purpose, will multiply his results without exhaustion. What once felt like duty now feels like destiny. This is not mysticism. It is physics of the soul. Energy once wasted through inner conflict is now conserved. The system of thought becomes efficient. No leakage, no guilt, no regret. Every cell of mind and body moves toward one end. The man becomes an organism of purpose. I have watched men reach this state and transform entire industries. One, once restless and discontent, became serene leader whose calm decisions rescued a failing enterprise. Another, once consumed by craving, became scholar whose work enlightened thousands. Each had learned to change the direction of his fire without diminishing its heat. To live by this law is to be reborn each day. The fire no longer enslaves, it renews. The man who once feared his own power now rests within it. He no longer measures himself against others, for his competition ended when inner conflict ceased. He no longer prays for strength, because strength has become his nature. Every emotion he feels becomes instrument of advancement. Love sharpens his purpose. Anger fuels correction without hatred. Desire quickens creativity without disorder. Even sorrow becomes wisdom. Every element of his being contributes to creation rather than contradiction. To reach this stage, you must make peace with your humanity. The law does not demand sainthood, it demands self-honesty. The very impulses you once condemned are the instruments of your future, if rightly tuned. There is no part of you that cannot serve your greatness when placed under discipline. The transmuted man no longer fights temptation, he redefines it. What once tempted him to weakness now reminds him of power. He thanks the moment of struggle, for it gives him a chance to demonstrate mastery. He understands that the same pressure that once defeated him now deepens his resolve. His work carries weight beyond measure of time. It endures because it was built on order, not excitement. The flame that built it is eternal because it feeds upon principle, not novelty. When he passes from this world, his influence continues through the structure of his thought embedded in others. His ambition appears serene rather than restless. Others feel in his presence the quiet assurance of one who knows law cannot fail. He no longer persuades, his existence persuades. His silence speaks louder than speeches. His calm invites trust because it reflects mastery, and mastery is the rarest wealth on earth. This peace is the reward for years of obedience to purpose. It cannot be borrowed or copied, it must be lived into. The soul must prove itself worthy through repeated demonstration of control. When that proof is given, life itself becomes ally. Events begin to serve the master who serves law. You will know you have reached this stage when discipline no longer feels heavy. It will feel natural, like breathing. You will no longer count days of effort or measure progress by fatigue. You will work because work has become expression of who you are. At this height, desire becomes devotion. Passion becomes prayer. Every act of service, every product of your hands or words becomes offering of your energy back to its divine source. You will look upon your labor and see in it the face of God reflected through discipline. Do not mistake humility for weakness here. The transmuted man is humble because he recognizes the source of his power. He knows he did not create fire. He only learned to serve it wisely. That recognition protects him from pride. Pride burns upward and destroys. Gratitude burns inward and sustains. He lives now with gratitude as constant companion. Each breath feels like wealth. Each challenge like invitation to expand. Gratitude maintains the vibration of abundance. It keeps the flame clear of smoke. Without it, even mastery decays into arrogance. To keep the flame eternal, serve through your power. The man who hoards energy stagnates. The man who circulates it increases. Give of your wisdom, share your calm, uplift those who still burn without control. In guiding others, you reinforce your own law. This, then, is the highest expression of transmutation. Not that you merely master yourself, but that your mastery multiplies others. Your calm inspires calm. Your faith awakens faith. Your discipline teaches silently. You become living evidence that desire, when rightly governed, is divine instrument. I have mastered my inner fire. My passion builds. It no longer burns. Discipline is my peace. Desire is my servant. What once consumed me now sustains me. Repeat these words not to boast, but to remember. They are acknowledgement of law fulfilled. Say them when the day ends, and feel gratitude that your strength is no longer enemy but ally. The time will come when you look back upon the man you were, the restless, divided, uncertain self, and you will smile, not with pride but with compassion. You will understand that his chaos was necessary to reveal your order. His weakness was the clay from which your strength was formed. Then you will understand that transmutation was never about denial or punishment. It was about evolution. It was about turning animal energy into divine expression, transforming temporary desire into timeless achievement. It was about remembering that the same fire which can destroy also gives life, and choosing creation every day. In that choice lies freedom. For when the flame obeys you, nothing in the outer world can enslave you again. Your wealth, your influence, your peace, these are now extensions of your nature, not substitutes for it. And this, my friend, is the forgotten law of transmutation, that every force of nature serves the man who learns to serve law. The same desire that once ruled you now kneels before your will. The same energy that once blinded you now illuminates your path. So I say to you now, do not fear the fire within. Guard it, direct it, honor it, Feed it with purpose and let it burn, not to consume, but to create. For the man who commands his inner flame does not merely live, he becomes life itself, a living demonstration that the greatest power in existence is not found in conquest, but in command of one's own spirit. When the fire within you burns without smoke, you have entered immortality. The body may fade, the years may pass, but the rhythm you have set in motion will continue. Your work will breathe. Your influence will echo. Your flame will live on in others who feel its warmth. And this, above all, is the true measure of mastery. That your life becomes a torch passed from one mind to another, each igniting the next, until the world is filled with light born from disciplined fire.